My name is Mark Ellis and I'm a filmmaker based here in Leamington Spa, specialising in local history. This podcast is called History Worth Telling, and it's really conversations with people who are passionate about the history of their area. And I'm delighted to say that I'm joined today by Martin Green, who's the chairman of the Warwickshire Industrial Archaeology Society. Let's get the name right. Well, Martin, welcome. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Mark.
First of all, then, just I suppose the obvious question is, what is industrial archaeology?
Well, industrial archaeology refers very much to the study of the remains, the physical remains of our industrial past. And although we call ourselves the Industrial Archaeology Society, we have a much broader interest. So it's basically looking at industrial heritage. And I have thought many times it would have been more sensible to call ourselves the Industrial Heritage Society of Warwickshire. But we were formed at a time when the industrial archaeology movement was proceeding apace. There was a national organisation, conferences and so on. So we decided to go with the Industrial Archaeology Society.
And when was it founded?
Well, the background is that I attended evening classes in Leamington Spa soon after I came here. And one of them was run by Toby Cave, renowned Leamington historian. And afterwards, he wrote me a letter and said, how about forming an Industrial Archaeology Society? And I responded positively. And so that's what we did. And we organised the first meeting in 1989. And then we tried to find a venue. I was a teacher at Warwick School at the time. And we used the economics classroom at Warwick School. And we had 15 people at the first meeting. And it grew from there. Toby Cave was chairman for the first period, and I was secretary and meetings organiser. He was chairman for about 15 years, and I've been chairman for the last 20 years or so, and have continued to be meetings organiser, which has its moments of trying to secure interesting speakers, because the meetings that we have been the basis of our work and of our success, actually.
Tell me a bit more about the meeting. So where do you meet and how often?
Well, as I say, the first meeting was at Warwick School in a small economics room, and we have moved around Warwick School ever since, trying to find bigger locations, and we currently still meet at Warwick School, at the Prep School Hall. We have 10 meetings a year, and we have a break at the moment, actually July and August. 7 of those meetings are in the Prep School Hall with a simultaneous delivery online via Zoom. And the 3 winter meetings, December, January, February, are Zoom only. And so typically we have perhaps 40 in the hall and another 30 online. So 65, 70 is our average attendance. So the Zoom facility, which obviously we developed during COVID, has been a godsend. So we have people tuning into our meetings from anywhere really, but we have a lady, in example, up in the Yorkshire Dales who attends every month.
Brilliant. And just give me a flavour of what sort of talks do you have? What kind of subjects are people covering?
Well, the full range, I have to say. And we are a society obviously interested in the industrial archaeology of Warwickshire, but we're also interested in industrial archaeology full stop. So we have several meetings of outside speakers, particularly for those Zoom lectures in the winter, where we can obviously have speakers from all over the country. And that's what we try and do, to try and expand the interest. And I would say my real role has been over the years is just to draw back the curtains a bit and say, well, industrial heritage, there's a broad aspect to it. And many of our members come from specialist interest groups, particularly cars, and cars, if you know what I mean, or steam. And I've tried through organising these meetings to broaden the interest really of those attending the meetings and saying there is a lot more to be found out about the heritage, and there is always things to be found. So, for example, I remember doing a talk on the diversity of Warwickshire's industrial heritage, chains, caravans and corsets. And what I tried to demonstrate was that chain making actually in Coventry, caravan production by a former employee of Jaguar, who was making caravans in his spare time, and the boss found out and sacked him, so he set up a caravan business on his own, and he was responsible for the iconic Airlight caravan of the 1930s. So, and then corsets. This is in Rugby, where there's a huge male population to work on the railways, but also, obviously, much female labour. And Symingtons of Market Harborough decided to set up a satellite factory in Rugby, and there was a readily available workforce. So, but Symington House, as it is now in Spring Street in Coventry, in Rugby, sorry, it has been a restored building. It was a little bit dilapidated at one stage, but it's now housing, and that's the way in which industrial archaeology has gone, is that so much was destroyed in the 70s, these old buildings of no value. Nowadays, there's a big effort to try and reuse. So reuse of industrial buildings has become a real focus of the subject.
And for people who don't know much about the industrial archaeology or the industrial heritage of Warwickshire, give me a few highlights if you were going to pick out two or three.
Pick out two or three. Well, of course, that's very difficult. But I'll have to start with the Warwick Gasworks, which is in Saltersford. It's one of the very oldest gasworks building in the world, 1822, and it has the original octagonal gas holders are still in place. Obviously, they've been converted now into housing, and the gasworks developed behind. But driving down the Saltersford out of Warwick on the right-hand side, Sainsbury's on the left, which used to be the home of Eagle, a big engineering works, and on the right is the Saltersford Gasworks. Then thinking about Coventry, obviously a huge amount of industrial heritage of Coventry was destroyed in the war. But Coventry Canal Basin, wonderful location, derelict in the 70s. In fact, pictures of the derelict basin were used as covers for the first two Specials album, just to demonstrate urban decay. But Alan Dyer, who was a lecturer at the local art college, was instrumental in reviving these buildings and creating workspaces for small artists, textile workers, whatever, even filmmakers perhaps. And that has continued to this day. So there's that. There's Hawkesbury Junction, the meeting of the Oxford and Coventry canals. Wonderful place, wonderful location, wonderful pub, and highly recommended for a visit. And also within Coventry, Cash's, many people remember Cash's name tapes, a ribbon weaving factory where the workshops are in the top level and the living accommodation is beneath. And it's a wonderfully preserved by the side of the Coventry Canal. And that really is the nature of industrial heritage in Warwickshire. There's all the car and bicycle, motorcycle, aircraft industries, and those industries, because of the nature of their work, no longer survive, and the buildings have gone. But the smaller industries, such as the watchmaking area of Chapel Fields, as I say, these ribbon weaving works, and it happens also in other areas. So there's needleworks in Ulster, just an example of that sort of industry. And so these workshop industries are of great interest as well.
I know a little bit about your background and that you're not a historian, you're not an engineer by background. Where does that sort of passion for industrial heritage and history come from, do you think?
Well, it started with train spotting. I was brought up in Solihull, and our family home was very close to the railway, and we used to spend hours watching trains go by, kings and castles and halls on that Birmingham Snow Hill Paddington line. And then for my A-levels at school, I did geography, history and economics, and my geography A-level project, a classic of its time, was on sand and gravel deposits in the Solihull area. And I couldn't decide really, shall I do history or geography at university? And in the end, I went for economics, mainly because the grades were a little bit higher in economics. But when I got to university, I found the mathematical aspects of economics was impossible. But there were lots of options for economic and social history. So I went for those. And I think I probably reached my academic peak, the foothills rather than the very top, with a paper on the comparative economic development of India and Japan, 1838 to 1938. But I enjoyed finding out the economic and social impact of political change or whatever, and how people coped with the process of industrialisation.
And above and beyond your involvement with the Industrial Archaeology Society, you're a published author as well.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with one of your books, which is The Iron Men of Leamington, which you wrote with Mick Jeffs. Subject of another video on the channel where you featured talking about the Leamington Patent Kitchener. Tell me a bit about the circumstances behind producing that book and what was that experience like?
Well, I'd walked the streets of Leamington many times and had noticed the coal hole covers really in all parts of the town, and a range of different names. And the Eagle Works particularly came to the fore. And I thought we ought to find out about these firms. And members of our society had actually done little bits of work on this, and I'd got odd bits of paper and notes from the past. And I thought it'd be a good idea to put this together. So I actually gave a talk to the Leamington History Group, and I suggested it would be a good idea if somebody in the audience would give me a hand and we could write a book about this. And sure enough, Michael Jeff stepped forward, and Michael, or Mick as we know him, we got together and we produced this book, and it grew and grew and grew. And it was a fascinating story, and you realise once you've published it as well that more information comes in. So it was I really enjoyed the project because I felt it was a reflection of what the society had been doing over time, people gathering information, and it needed somebody to take the responsibility of putting it together. And actually we won an Association for Industrial Archaeology award for that book as the best local society publications of the year. So I was delighted with that. It was great working with Mick. We work at a different pace, but we got there in the end, if you know what I mean. I followed that actually with another book, which was the result of a chance meeting with a former student, Brian Joseph, and I met him, we were at Charlcote National Trust, the tea shop actually, and we obviously recognised each other, and I said to Brian, I've often wondered about that aluminium works on the Birmingham Road going out of Stratford, which is his family firm. And he said, well, that's strange because I've got a load of stuff which I've inherited in my attic now, detailing the family and the story of the business. And it's a very good story. It's a Jewish family that were persecuted in Europe, came actually to Sunderland, and then to Birmingham, and eventually to Stratford, and established this aluminium works, much to the dismay of some of the locals, because obviously they felt Shakespeare's birthplace shouldn't be defaced by an aluminium works. But it's a very, very successful firm, biggest employer in the town, and of course now there is nothing there, nothing at all. Now there's a road called Joseph Way, and that was in the wrong place, incidentally, it's most of it is an Aldi supermarket. So that's where there's no archaeology there. That's history and heritage, and we had lots of reunions with the former employees, and they loved it. And the book was written for them, really, and for the family. And it has gone down very, very well. And we were given a great support by the Stratford Town Trust and by the Warwickshire Industrial Archaeology Society. It was an interesting process, actually, presenting to the committee that perhaps they'd like to subsidise the writing of a book that I was going to do. But I got by in the end.
Let's finish off then by going back to the Warwickshire Industrial Archaeology Society. You mentioned that has links to a kind of broader national industrial archaeology scene and, I guess, organisation. Tell us a bit about that and how you're plugged into that.
Well, the Association for Industrial Archaeology has been the driving force behind the national movement for the subject. And over the years, they have held conferences throughout the country. So an annual conference would go to a particular location, lectures on the local industry, and then for the rest of the conference, a series of visits. The association drew in all the local societies around the country. So there are societies adjacent to us in Gloucestershire, in Worcestershire, in Northamptonshire, Leicestershire, and in fact, very recently we're building up very strong links with Northamptonshire Group, who are struggling a bit for membership and that they're hoping that some of the things that we were doing might help a little bit. But I have to say, it's very important I say this, the committee we have running WIAS is absolutely vital. And that has always been the case. You know, it's not just me, it is a number of people. Our treasurer, Victor Lobb, our webmaster, Peter Riley, our visits organiser, Alan Foote, and others are all extremely important to us. And we wouldn't survive without them. David Daniel is a recent arrival, and he's got great technological skills. So again, he's handling all the Zoom meetings, and this is the essence of it, because we need to keep contact with people. We need to bring them into meetings. And my family, my children, asked me, well, "Why are you interested in it?" And there's an element of mild ridicule goes on, particularly from my younger son. And I say, well, so much history is about kings and castles and country houses and all that sort of stuff. But actually, the real history is the history of the working lives of most of us. You know, we're in factories, we're in workshops, we're servicing engines, whatever it be. And the economic and social impact of that is so important. It's so important for a sense of identity. It's so important for the layout of our towns and cities. I mean, the rail network, you know, laid down in the 19th century, essentially. And look at the problems that trying to lay another line, HS2, creates today, you know. So that, and indeed the process of deindustrialisation, what happens next? And there are parts of Warwickshire where become quite deprived areas because the industry is gone, and there is little left That's what really drives me. And I just want people to understand, or to help people understand, that this was such a crucial period in Britain's development. And it will be lost because the current generations coming through have no experience of it really, and, dare I say it, little interest in it. But at least the efforts of groups like ourselves hopefully can record the industrial heritage, and it'll be something for them to look at in the future.
And do you have any up-and-coming projects or plans, either as a group or you individually, that you're excited about?
Well, if I told you that my current project is looking at the role of Warwick and Leamington in the development of the cement mixer and the dumper truck. So, as I say, it is a far-ranging subject. But no, I mean, for example, tomorrow we have a group visit, a society visit to the Science Museum Collections, the Innovation Centre in Swindon. We're going on a summer trip to Northcote Brickworks, which is actually just in Gloucestershire, in Blockley. And that as a result of Michael Brown, who came to speak to us about Northcote Brickworks, which was celebrating its centenary in 2025. So always on the lookout for potential visits, and we also take in things like we have visits to HS2 sites. We went to the Coventry Recycling Centre on the London Road, wonderful visit. Vitsoe Furniture Works in Leamington Spa on the old Ford Foundry site. So anything industrial, we're keen to get involved.
Just to finish off then, if anyone wants to, if they felt inspired to join WIAS, or if they want to find out more about it, where should they go? Everybody's
welcome. I have to say that our membership covers the full spectrum, and I'm not an engineer. My interest is in the economic and social development, why firms grew, why industries grew, why they had troubles, etc., etc. Others, we have people who they know everything and more about three-wheeled BSA motor vehicles. So we cover the full range. The best way to find out more about us is through our website, which is www.warwickshireias.org. And you'd always be welcome at any meeting just to try us out. And I hope we will lay on things which will be of interest. We have an enthusiastic atmosphere at our meetings, and I feel that, what I'm most proud of probably is the fact that we were formed in 1989 and we're still going strong in 2026. And that is quite an achievement, which is the result of the efforts of a large number of people, many of whom are no longer with us, but it is that which has contributed to the lasting legacy of industrial heritage.
Brilliant, thank you. So that's it for today. If you enjoyed this conversation and you'd like to hear similar conversations with other people with a passion for local history and heritage, then please do subscribe to the channel. The only thing that remains for me to say, Martin, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Mark. It's been a real pleasure to talk about industrial heritage. Thank you.
Thank you.